Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual USD session, How to Stand Out in an Interview. Today's session is hosted by the University of San Diego's Alumni Association and Career Development Center. My name is Kara Marsh-Profit, and I am the Director of Alumni Operations and Engagement for USD's Office of Alumni Relations. A big shout out and welcome to my fellow USD alumni, and another welcome to the current USD students who have joined us today. The mission of the Alumni Association is to engage and enrich the Torero community for life. Today's program is rooted in the desire to offer meaningful ways for our community to stay in touch and learn from one another. We know how strong our USD network is and hope these types of virtual opportunities will continue to strengthen the connection we have with one another. This session also falls within our annual HireUSD campaign. As a Torero, you are connected to an extraordinary resource, your fellow USD alumni and current USD students. You already know that Toreros are global citizens and ethical leaders who combine personal and professional achievement with a compassionate and community-oriented approach. We encourage you to think of your fellow alumni and current USD students for open positions at your company. For more on HireUSD, visit alumni.sandiego.edu and click on the Benefits tab. A few housekeeping items before I pass off the microphone. We are using Zoom webinar today. The Q&A feature has been activated for you to post questions you may have for our presenters throughout the session. Today's session is also being recorded and will be posted to the Alumni Association's YouTube channel next week. Without further ado, I would like to introduce today's facilitators, Dee, Kayalar, and Sue Kelly, two of my most favorite colleagues. Dee is an ICF certified career coach and works within USD's Career Development Center, where she offers coaching to USD alumni job seekers in career planning and management while helping them navigate their career challenges. She also oversees USD's campus-wide networking and mentorship platform TEAM, which stands for Torero Employer and Alumni Mentors. Dee is a future USD alumna currently pursuing a graduate degree in SOLS. Also, true blue Torero alumna and parent of a current USD first-year student, Sue Kelly serves as USD's Assistant Director of Career Exploration and Experiential Learning, say that 3 times fast, within our Career Development Center. We're so fortunate to have you both here today. Sue and Dee, we love having you as part of our USD family, and I personally am incredibly grateful for your willingness to share your expertise with our audience today. Without further ado, ladies, please take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much for that kind intro. So I am Dee. I'm USD's Assistant Director of Alumni Career Engagement. And as Kara mentioned, I run our alumni career services that include one-to-one career advising, career workshop, webinars like this one, our university-wide networking team portal. I'm joined today by my wonderful partner, Sue Kelly, who some of you may already know. So I'll pass it on to you, Sue, to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Dee. As Kara and Dee mentioned, I am Assistant Director in the Career Development Center. I just celebrated my 25th year as a career counselor at USD, and I'm a proud alumna. My first full-time job out of USD was actually as a recruiter. I interviewed thousands of people for positions within the entertainment industry, so this is a topic that I really enjoy. And I see all students, all majors. So for the students that are part of the audience, feel free to come in and see us. And for our alumni, we encourage you to see Dee for any of your career planning needs.
Thank you so much, Sue. Let me go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. All right. So following today's webinar, you will have learned what to do before, during, and after an interview, different kinds of interview questions, the STAR method, some interview do's and don'ts, and then we'll address the questions that we received from you prior to today before we moved into the live Q&A session. So to set ourselves up for success, self-awareness is key. So asking ourselves, what is the impact we want to make in this world? What are the values that are important to us? And what are our strengths? People who use their strengths every day are happier and healthier. In fact, according to Gallup, they are 6 times as likely to be engaged in their job and 3 times as likely to report having an excellent quality of life. And we want to make sure that we are using and leveraging our strengths and aligning them to the careers and positions and roles that we are interested in. So prior to the interview, we do advise taking the Clifton Strengths to learn about your natural abilities that set you apart from others. It will help you better articulate your value added during interviews and target positions that are more aligned with your strengths. It's also important to browse professional profiles on LinkedIn to benchmark yourself vis-a-vis successful professionals in your field to help determine whether or not you need to develop new skills or upskill or reskill as necessary. It's helpful to schedule informational interviews with people from within your target companies to gain career insights and hear insider stories, and also to speak with us. So Sue and I, we both perform mock interviews with our clients. So do make an appointment with us so we can help you navigate the job search process and the interview prep process. Now, fun fact, according to Work It Daily, it takes about an average of 10 interviews to get a job. And so, and to succeed in the interview, it's really important that we are able to match our skills to the needs of the companies that we're interested in. So it's helpful to research the company using the company website, social media, employment-related sites like Glassdoor. It's helpful to Google News search the company to understand what their products are, what their services are, who's their customer base, what makes them different or better than their competitors, how long they've been in the business, and what are the core beliefs, vision, mission that's guiding them. It's also helpful to research the interviewers, looking at their LinkedIn profiles, searching for their employee bios on their career websites, looking at their social media handles, because it'll help you understand what these people value, which is important considering that they may end up as your future bosses or peers. Also, researching the role, analyzing the job description, looking at LinkedIn to see who has held the position previously, what are their qualifications and what are their credentials, and how do you benchmark against them. Also, conducting informational interviews before even we apply for positions. And you can utilize LinkedIn's alumni tool or USC's internal networking site team to identify alumni contacts working within your preferred companies and scheduling informational meetings with them. And I know we've received some audience questions about, what types of questions to ask during these more informational meetings. And some helpful ones are things like, what are some trends impacting the company currently? What is the company's hiring criteria, their hiring timeline? If they are hiring for remote roles, how does the virtual onboarding go? What are the opportunities to meet in person are some questions that you can ask. And then I've always found it helpful, because I'm a visual person, to write out, answers to the most common questions. Sue will be covering a lot of, some of these in her segment, but in general, you'll get 4 types of questions. Questions about you, like these are like traditional questions, like tell me about yourself, questions about the role and company, questions about your future goals, and also some work history questions about your career background. And there'll be a blend of behavioral and situational questions, mix in between. And so, it's important to write down the answers to some of the most common ones so that you feel quite ready and confident when responding to those questions. And then also within Handshake's resources section, so at CDEV, we do offer Interview Stream, which is a software that allows you to videotape yourself and to watch it back. So that's really, really helpful when you're practicing for interviews. And like I mentioned, you can always make an appointment with us so we can help you get ready for your interviews. Now, additional best practices before the interview. It's I think you'll find it helpful to prepare some career anecdotes or career stories that that are kind of ready to go, and develop stories that particularly relate to the career competencies and skills that are required in the job, and to really focus on, as you're creating those stories, to focus on, what was the scope of the roles that you've held in the past, or things you've done in the past that are directly matched or aligned with some of the skills and competencies that the preferred roles and positions call for. What was your impact? One of the things that I really find helpful is to look at the skills that are outlined in the job description, and then look to see, can you provide specific examples from your background, your career history, your educational history, in which you have utilized and leveraged those skills, and making a note of them so that they're kind of ready to go during the interview. And then make sure you have questions prepared to ask the interviewers, because the interview is as much an opportunity for them to find out about you and learn about you as it is for you to learn about them. And so, and it also shows your interest and your passion for the positions that you're applying for. Some of my favorite questions to ask are things like, what are the top skills of your most outstanding candidates? Or how do you measure performance or success on the job? What are some of the top priorities that I will be called to address during my first couple of months on the job? You can also ask them about what they find to be the most rewarding aspects of their jobs, or more of the challenging aspects of their job. In addition, have a couple of examples of weaknesses, because hiring managers will ask you about those to see how self-aware you are. And just in responding to them, just make sure that you are focusing on how you're working on improving those weaknesses. Before going into any type of career conversation or interview, it's helpful to know your salary expectations. And even if you don't disclose it to them, it's helpful to know what your deal breakers are and what your specific number is. And there are online resources like payscale.com, salary.com, the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, Career One Stop, Glassdoor, that will help determine the average salary for your preferred roles. And they'll also let you know what your average market worth is based on your number of years of experience, your educational history, etc. So I would definitely suggest knowing your salary expectations before you step into the interview. And then dress for success, right? We definitely want to dress professional, and even if it's a virtual interview, we want to dress as if we'd be going to work with that company. Now, number one reason I've already alluded to this, but an employer cites as not hiring a candidate because they haven't had any questions prepared. So here are some others that that are suggested for you. Other ones that might be important that I haven't mentioned is, like, what have been some major contributions that have been made by individuals who've held this job previously? Or what are some examples of problems that I might be expected to address? Or could you tell me about the people that I'll be working with? What types of positions do they hold? Now, given how popular virtual recruiting is, and it looks like, it's hybrid work and remote work is here to stay, there are some things that you can definitely do to set yourself up for success for virtual interviews. As with any interview, it's important to be ready 10 to 15 minutes before the interview, again, dressing professionally, testing lighting, audio, camera, elevating your laptop if need be to ensure proper eye contact, closing all applications on your screen, having the contact number of the interviewer or the conference line ready to go if you lose connection at any point during the interview. I do advise, if there is an opportunity for it, if it makes sense, to share your screen during the interview. It does show major credibility and proficiency to be able to walk through a hiring manager through a real example or through your portfolio, etc. It's helpful. Obviously, you want to make sure that you've closed out all of your unused tabs and applications to improve the speed of your computer. Facing the window or some light is always ideal. Making sure that your background is neutral and it's tidy. And then having a copy of your resume and job description is also always helpful, because sometimes the interviewers will refer to specifics from your resume, and you don't want to kind of appear distracted by clicking between windows or typing as you're responding to them. Have a paper and pen ready to go, like available to you. It's perfectly okay to ask, to jot down the questions that they're asking or taking notes. I always, advise taking notes of the people who are interviewing you, so you can then follow up with them with a thank you note. And just, use your body language, your gestures. We want some personality to show, and have a glass of water ready. At least for me personally, it calms my nerves, and it also sometimes, just taking a sip of water allows us to buy some time to process and recalibrate. So on that note, I will pass it to Sue to talk about the during the interview segment.
Great, thank you, Dee. So this is easier said than done, but try to relax. And if you're nervous, that's completely normal. Take some deep breaths and realize in the beginning you might be a little more nervous. And once you have a minute or two to realize it's going to be just fine, you can settle in. But even if you're nervous, it's important to have that nonverbal communication that will show that you're confident and that you're happy to be there. So a positive attitude is huge. And within those first 10 to 20 seconds, that's setting the tone and your first impression. So look like you're happy to be there, have great eye contact, use your nonverbal nodding to show that you're engaged and you're listening. If it is in person and we get back to handshakes, have a firm handshake. Also, focus on the question that is being asked. So sometimes your mind can get a little scattered, especially if there's more than one person interviewing you at a time. But just focus on the question being asked and answer the question directly. And as Dee had mentioned, it's always important to ask questions. It shows interest, and it also gives you a chance to learn more about the opportunity and whether or not it's a good fit for you. Really study that job description so you can tailor your answers to make sure that they can see that you're a qualified candidate. And that will help you make a case for why you're the best candidate for the position. So what I would do with the job description is underline all the words, all the qualifications, all the characteristics that they're asking for that you have, and that's going to be your guide as to what you can stress in the interview. So typical interview questions, the first question, which is a very broad question, but a common one, tell me about yourself. Really what that translates to is, why should I hire you? So things that you need to include in that could be your relevant experience, your skills, knowledge that you have about the company, and why you're there. At the end, tying that into your excitement about this position, and again, why you're a good candidate. Also, as Dee had mentioned, research is so important. What do you know about us? If you can talk to alumni ahead of time, or any of your contacts that work for the company to get insider information. Also follow them on LinkedIn, look at where they are in the media. Are there any articles or blogs about them? And why do you want this job? So what we often get, our candidates come to the Career Center, interviewing for one of our positions, and they'll say, I really want to work at USD. And that's fine, but I want to hear more than that. I want to hear not only why do you want to work at USD, but why the Career Center? And not only why the Career Center, but why this particular position? So you really need to show your interest in the position and that you're just not applying for anything, that you have a sincere interest in the job. And the strengths and weaknesses, though, these are key points to make in your interviewing. For the weakness question, and I know Dee touched on this a little bit, you do want to choose a weakness that's not as important for the job. So for example, if you're applying for a job as an accountant, you don't want to say, I'm not detail oriented. But maybe you want to improve your public speaking skills. So you could talk about that and what you're doing to work on presenting, whether you're taking a course or you are asking for some opportunities to speak up at staff meetings or anything like that, just to show that you're working on this weakness. The strengths question is key. And again, think about the job. What are they going to want to hear about? What's most relevant to the position? And I'll teach you a technique that's really going to allow you to tell stories about your strengths. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. You may get asked why you're leaving your current job. And my advice for that is to just stay positive and not say anything negative about the company or the position, but really turning it back into this opportunity, because this is where you want to take your career next, into the job that you're applying for. And if it is a remote job or hybrid, they may ask you, why do you want to work from home? Or how do you feel about working remotely? And again, stress the things about that that's positive. You can focus without interruptions, working from home. You don't necessarily want to say anything about, you want to work from home because you want to be able to keep an eye on your kids or anything like that. Just keep it professional. Behavioral interviewing is popular because it shows you a past performance about how you've handled a situation, and it is a reliable predictor for future success in a role. So some sample behavioral questions could be, tell me about a time that you had to deal with an angry customer, or describe a situation where you saw a problem and took action to solve it. Or tell me about a time when you had to work with somebody whose personality was very different from yours. Tell me about a time when you had to delegate a project effectively. Tell me about a time when you had to go above and beyond the call of duty to get something done. What steps do you follow to study a problem before making a decision? So thinking about past situations that you've been in. If you're a student, you can talk about your classroom group projects, or research projects, internship experiences. And of course, if you're an alum, you'll have a lot of information and examples to pull from your job, your current job, or even past jobs as well. All right, so the STAR method, some of you may have heard of this method before, but this is my favorite technique to use in interviewing. It keeps you on task, and you're providing an example, you're proving your strength by telling a story. So it stands for situation, task, action, and result. So remember, going back to that job description, what questions, what characteristics are they looking for in you? So let's say for me, I'm interviewing for a job as a career counselor. One of my strengths should be my career counseling skills. And what I will do is tell a story about how I am an effective career counselor. So for example, the situation is I met with a freshman this year who thought she wanted to be an orthodontist. This was what she's wanted to be for the last 10 years. And she got into her science classes and it was not doing well. And it was failing out of her classes. So she needs to switch gears. She wants to change her major from bio to something else. But she's going through this whole new career exploration phase and is devastated about this change of career plans. So the task that I gave her was to take the strong interest inventory and Myers-Briggs personality assessment. And this was so she could open up options. We had an interpretation session where we went over the results, had a meaningful discussion, talked about some possibilities. And at the end, she said, I feel, and this is the result, I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. And now I have hope for my future, where I really couldn't see that I could be happy in anything else besides going to dental school and becoming an orthodontist. And now I'm excited about business and being a business major, and I just feel relieved. So you can see it's not a long response, but there's a beginning to the story, there's a middle, and there's an end. And people remember stories, and it keeps you on track. So what I would recommend is prepare 3 to 5 star examples for your next interview. And then you may not use all of them, but just have them ready to go in case you do need to bring up those examples. And you don't have to do the STAR method for every single question that's asked, but at least try to throw a few of those into your examples. The next slide is about technical interviews, and this would be more for IT, engineering, science candidates. So you may get asked to solve a technical problem. And so this can be stressful, but the best thing to do for that is to really take your time, be methodical. It's fine to ask clarifying questions. I think that's a good sign that you're not rushing into an answer, you're gathering all the information. Talk out loud. They want to see your thought process. And they're also analyzing your critical thinking skills. So even if you don't get the answer right, if they can see that you're methodical, that you're logical, that you're looking at things from different angles, that's going to be a major plus. Positive interview signs. So if your interview is lasting a little bit longer than they initially said, that's a great sign. They're enjoying getting to know you. They want to learn more about you. If the interviewer looks engaged, they're nodding their head, they're asking follow-up questions, they're asking when you can start. And the interview is trying to sell you on the company and appeal to you. That's also a great sign. So keep up the great work. If the interview doesn't go well, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. You'll probably learn more from interviews that you fail in or don't get, because it forces you to look at how could you improve. And we're more than happy to debrief with you.
Thank you so much, Sue. So after the interview, what are some best practices? You definitely want to follow up, ideally within 24 hours of having completed your interview, with a thank you note. Now, although handwritten notes are wonderful and you're more than welcome to actually send one, the recruiting process is so quick these days. So in an email, sending an email note out is ideal. And you want to make the interviewer feel special. So calling out a couple of specific details from the interview or the interviewer specifically is helpful. It'll it'll kind of refresh their memory as to the interview they've had with you. It's also a great opportunity to share any content or resources that you did not have a chance to share during your conversation with them. So you can add links to your website, media, publications, portfolio, etc. You can also share some follow-up examples, and I'll show you an example momentarily. Like, here's a case study I mentioned during our conversation. And then make sure to show your personality as well. There are so many templates available out there. So I would advise against just copy pasting that, but adding your own, customizing it based on your own voice and personality. And so little example. So hi, Tanner. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. I really enjoyed learning more about your career trajectory at so-and-so company and where you see the company going in the next couple of years. To follow up on our conversation, I've attached a short deck that I mocked up on my initial ideas for increasing renewals. Happy to discuss further if you see it being a helpful resource. I can tell that so-and-so company is a special place to work, and I'd be thrilled to join such an innovative, hardworking, and passionate team of individuals. Please let me know if there's anything else that I can provide you with to make your hiring decision easier. So this is just a sample note. As you can see, you can definitely, it's very much personalized. They are referring to a conversation they've had during the interview and following up with some additional material. So some interview do's. One of the things, again, because I'm visual, I like to prepare cheat sheets before the interview, sort of a one-pager in bullet point format where I list the key aspects of, your professional experience that you definitely want to mention during the interview. Some prompts to remind you of the key points that you want to make about your career experiences, your career anecdotes. You can definitely add some star stories that Sue mentioned that's relevant to the jobs that you're applying for. So use the STAR method for your stories. Use body language and gestures to show personality and showcase impact. So make sure that your STAR stories, you're talking about, the scope of your role and are quantifying achievements where you can, and that you're keeping the STAR, stories really results focused. So if you've streamlined a process, or if you've saved money for your company, or you've launched a new program, a new system, you definitely want to show examples of that if applicable to the jobs that you're applying for. Now, if you don't, avoid personal conversations. It may be that you might know someone from the hiring committee, but you still want to keep it as professional as possible. You don't want to speak poorly of former employers or clients. Be watchful of using filler words like ums, you knows, etc. Like I did, so you don't want to do the don't disregard time boundaries. So keeping to the time boundaries. Sue mentioned this. When you're asked a question, you really want to keep your answer relevant to that particular question, and don't answer 4 or 5 questions in that one response. So avoid going off on an irrelevant tangent, just avoiding those personal conversations, and don't appear too eager or not eager enough. Right? You definitely do want to show interest, but you don't want to be showing too eager. All right. So before we go into the questions, Sue will go through some of the resources that we provide at CDEV, and then we'll cover the questions from you.
Yes, so we do offer one-on-one career counseling appointments. Dee is amazing with our alumni, and we have a large staff to help all of our undergraduate students. You can make appointments on Handshake, which is our online platform. All of our job listings are on there. We have some event information on there, and you can also schedule an appointment on Handshake or just call our office. We offer career major exploration, career counseling sessions. We do the assessments like Clifton Strengths, Myers-Briggs Strong Interest Inventory. We do a ton of resume and cover letter reviews, mock interviews, internship strategy discussions. We can help you with your job search. We can review your LinkedIn profile. We can help you apply to graduate school. We review personal essays, can help you with graduate school planning and networking. Our career guide, which is basically all of our handouts all in one place. We have hard copies, but everything is also online on our website. There's interview tips in our career guide, as well as all of our resume samples. And we also have samples that you can edit from our website. You will get, do they get a copy of the slides after? Do we send it? Okay.
So they will get a copy of the recording.
Okay, I get a copy of it. All right, so these are, so sandiego.edu/careers, everything is on there with links to Handshake, our career guide, And our team portal, which is probably my favorite resource, and Dee has done an amazing job building this platform. Think of it, it's like LinkedIn, but everybody on team is connected to USD, they're alumni, and they have already agreed to help you with career advice. So you're not bothering them. They have been vetted and they want to help you. You can message them. So you just sign up on team from our website, and you can do info interviews, get all kinds of advice. There's discussion groups, affinity groups, by location, by interest. Dee, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add about that.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So you can utilize your LinkedIn or your USD email to sign up through mentoring.sandiego.edu. And this is a great resource, particularly for your informational interviews. If you want to identify, contacts from within the companies that you're interested in, to learn more about those companies or whether or not there are any positions available within your areas of interest, go to the Flash Mentoring segment of the team portal. Use the search filters to identify alumni and reach out to them directly. These are all people that have really opted in, volunteered to offer your support and mentorship. So it's a great, great resource. And as part of our HireUSD campaign, this is also USD's alumni job board. So we have many alumni, hundreds of alumni employers posting positions daily on the portal. And what differentiates it from a lot of the other job portals out there is that you'll have the opportunity to connect with the job poster and engage with them with respect to those positions. So it's kind of like a guaranteed job interview almost, because these are people that want to recruit from USD. So yeah, we definitely invite you to take advantage of it.
We also have a personalized alumni group on LinkedIn, so linkedin.com/alumni. And this makes it so easy once you're on the site, you can click on alumni, and then you can do your search for alumni who are working in profession or field that you want to enter, and reach out to them and connect.
Okay, and we have a number of exciting events coming up. One is, I believe it's third or fourth iteration of our Welcome to the City events series, which are virtual social networking opportunities that bring together our students with our regional alumni and alumni leaders. So we're going to be kicking off the series with Welcome to the Bay Area on April 5th. So we hope that you'll be able to join us. And this is one of our most exciting partnerships with the Alumni Office. And then we have our Careers in Journalism event that is happening on April 5th, and that's a collaboration with the English department, and we'll have industry professionals from Fox 5 San Diego, from BuzzFeed joining us to discuss careers in journalism. Then on April 25th, we have our Industry Networking Night, another virtual event that we've partnered with the Alumni Office on, where we'll feature industry representatives from social impact, media, and sports industries. So that's virtual on April 25th. And please do go on the Alumni Association events calendar, as well as Career Development Center's website, so you can keep track of upcoming events and register for them. All right, so with that, being said, let's go ahead and start addressing some of the questions from you, just because Sue has already alluded to this, and this was also a question submitted by one of you prior to this event. There was a question about how to best prepare for technical interviews, and I'll go ahead and share with you some resources that you can check out. So if you are in STEM careers, as Sue mentioned, you need to prepare for tech interviews. And here, companies are really interested in understanding your problem-solving ability and the way that you think about problems. And there is a book, it's called Cracking the Coding Interview. and which includes sample questions from companies like Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft. And there's a new edition released every year. So that's Cracking the Coding Interview. And then there's something called LEET code, that's LEET code. And this contains sample interview questions in an online editor. So it gives you the problem and it has you code out your solution and it runs it against a slew of tests and see so that you can see whether or not your solution works. So both of those tools are really, really helpful. And then just study with, with a peer. Do a mock interview because it will get you comfortable with articulating your thought process, because as Sue alluded to earlier, you need to explain your thinking so the interviewer can course track or correct you. And when you're doing a mock interview with a peer, you can ask them what you did well and what you did not do well, so you can focus on improving those. And also, for the students out there, know your technical projects, your capstone projects, the tech projects that you've done, and make sure that you can talk about them in interesting ways. So what are some of the team projects you worked on? What was your role? What were some of the technical challenges that you encountered, and how did you go about solving them? So those are just a few tips. All right. All right, so going through the questions that have been sent, okay, we'll start from the top. Would you have any other specific advice for interviewing with grad schools rather than jobs? Okay, so for grad school interviews, I'll take a stab and I'll turn it over to Sue in case she has comments. But for these, it's really, as with job interviews, we definitely want to align it to the school, right? To the program. So what is it about the program that is of most interest to you? That is most, why are you passionate? Why are you interested? And can you make a case, or can you provide specific examples from your personal life story or from your professional background that pertains to the requirements of that program, what that program is about? Because it's always, about proving how your background, how your skill sets, how your strengths are aligned with the schools and programs that you're applying to. And as a two-time grad student myself, I have always found it helpful, even before applying for grad schools, to talk to current students and alumni of those programs to really understand what was it that motivated them to study that program, of what they find to be the most rewarding aspects of that program, some of the pain points, some of the challenges that they're confronted with. So I can then, think about, is this something that I'm interested in? Also asking these people, again, going back to what Sue mentioned, looking at LinkedIn to see what are the alumni of those programs doing currently, right? What are some of the career trajectories that they have chosen for themselves? And is this something that I'm interested in? So these are some things that I would suggest doing to prepare. Sue, would you like to?
Yep, that's great.
All right, let's see. Do you have any advice for how to respond if the very first question you're asked in an informational interview is, what do you want to do?
Well, if it's an info interview, you're interviewing them about their job, then I'm assuming you're interested in their position. So that's.
Yeah, I think the best way to prepare for that is to really do a mock conversation, or come and meet with us so we can perhaps do the Strengths Finder with you, help you understand why are you interested in what kinds of positions are you interested in, or what types of careers are available out there that are aligned with your strengths and with your natural abilities. Because I think what sets us up for success with any interview is to be able to match our strengths to the the positions that we're applying to. And if we don't have those skill sets or those strengths, thinking about, what are the ways that we can develop those skills so we can then successfully apply for those positions. So I think this is a question where it's really important to know yourself well and to build that self-awareness before even starting to look for positions, so we can find ones that are really aligned with our interest areas and strengths. D, would you bring a cheat sheet to an in-person interview or just virtual? This is a great question. I would advise bring it to both, even if it's in person. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to keep looking at your notes. That's why it's helpful to, when you are bringing a cheat sheet, just have some bullet points and some prompters so that you can kind of peek at it and remember what you wanted to mention. So these are things that will, one, give you that boost of confidence, just knowing that you have your content ready, right? And also just so that, towards like every couple of questions, just to look at the cheat sheet to see, have you covered the content that you wanted to cover? And if you haven't, it'll give you an opportunity to weave it in later portions of your interview. So yes, I personally do find it helpful. However, you don't want to be reading off of it. It's just that, have it with you so that you can glance at it as need be. Would you agree with that, Sue?
Yes.
Okay. So Victoria asks, I had a specific question on a resume, please. I've been told to use a summary included on the resume instead of providing a cover letter. What are your thoughts? I'll take a quick stab and then turn it over to Sue. Now, a lot of tech companies, they won't even require cover letters. So I would really go with the job description, like the job listing. And if they want a cover letter, you'll see it on there. If it's not stated, just send your resume, but make sure that your resume is keyword optimized, that is optimized to the position that you're applying to. The career summaries, as a counselor, I usually advise adding career summaries if you're mid to senior level, that you have amassed such extensive experience that it makes sense to highlight, add career highlights on top because you have 10 plus years of experience. So you just want to highlight the ones that are relevant to the job that you're applying to. But otherwise, I don't think that it's necessary to have any kind of summary on your resume. Sue?
Yeah, you'll notice in our undergrad samples, there really aren't summaries on there just because there's not enough to have a summary. But if you have more experience, it's fine. And like Dee said, just follow the whatever the employer is telling you to do. If they want a cover letter, definitely send a cover letter in and tailor it to the position.
Okay. Liz asks, hi, how do we explain a career gap on a resume or in an interview? For example, if we had been raising children or had been a caregiver. My quick answer to that is if it's on a resume, it is completely legit to add career sabbatical and underneath it, write down the reason, right? Because you were raising a family, etc. And then just put the date. So as you would with any professional experience on your resume, how you have the company, your role, and then your start at month, year, and month, year, career sabbatical, reason for the sabbatical, and then the years that you were away from the workforce. Especially right now, post-COVID, even before with the whole, focus on DEI, etc. It is complete, it's, yes, you had a career sabbatical. That's not something to be ashamed of. So you can definitely add it like that. And then in an interview, you want to be honest, right? And then also keep the interview focused on your skills. So what are your transferable skills? What are your successful skills? What are things that you have done in the past, professional or your leadership, volunteering activities that make you qualified for the positions that you're applying to? And really keep the, be honest and keep the focus on your transferable skills. All right, Carlos Perdomo asks, if job offering or internship does not request an interview, is it rude to ask for the possibility of holding one? Professional resumes or grades is sometimes not enough to show the full capabilities of an individual. Thus, holding interviews, in my opinion, is a better advantage of the interviewer to get a better version of who is applying. So you want to respond to that, Sue? Or?
So
If the internship or the job offering doesn't request an interview, is it rude to ask for the possibility of holding one?
no, anytime you can try to make a connection with somebody, it's showing your interest, and maybe you'll get an interview out of that, just saying that you're very interested in the opportunity. Is there a possibility of having a discussion?
Right. Eric asks, I've noticed that a lot of resume templates include a place for a photo. What are your thoughts on including a photo in a resume? I think Sue will agree with me on the fact that the industry standards in the US is that no photos. I know Word has a lot of templates with that, but here we don't include photos. We don't include personal information. However, I've worked in Germany for 3 years. When I was putting together my European resume did have my photo, my marital status, my phone, my address, everything, but not here. So that's a no-no.
Definitely on a LinkedIn profile, but not on the resume, unless you're, an actor or actress and you need a headshot, of course, but for general positions, we'd say no.
Eric asked, how does a person play up their experience without drawing undue attention to their age? Now, one of the ways that your resume is one place where you can definitely leverage your experience, but you might need to get tricky. Like, for example, a job might call for just 10 plus years of experience, let's say in agile coaching, and you might have 20 plus years of experience. And so you want to be kind of wary of ageism. And so in those instances, I do suggest mimicking the job description. So even if you have 20 plus experiences, I would just suggest putting 10 plus. Or removing dates next to your degrees. Unless you're a recent graduate, you don't need to put a year next to your degree or, your degrees. So those are kind of some ways, but I think just to look at analyzing the job description well, and just making sure that in our cover letters, in the way that we talk about ourselves during the interview and in the resume, that we are really tailoring it based on the jargon and the qualifications that they have mentioned
And
in the way that they have described it.
yeah, there's a great resource called jobscan.co, jobscan.co, and it allows you to upload your resume and then upload a job description, and it will show you a match of how well your resume is targeted to the position, and it gives you a percentage number, and it's based on keywords and experiences. And if you have a low percent, it gives you tips on how you can target it. And also it does it for cover letters as well. So I think that could be a really helpful source in getting you to land an interview.
Absolutely. And with jobscan.co, I think you have the free version. You can do up to 14 or 15 scans. So make sure, I know this is an interview, but we're getting a lot of questions on resumes, but make sure you have a master resume, and then to create targeted versions of your resume based on the positions that you're applying to, and then using JobScan tool to create those customized versions. Is it okay to use more than one page for a resume? And if so, then can we use both sides of the paper? Yes, it's fine to use both sides of the paper. And I do, will definitely ask Kara to share with you our resume workshop. We have a recording available where we have covered all of these things. So in our post follow up with you, because I see that we have only 3 minutes. So we'll make sure to share that resume workshop with you.
And generally 1 page for somebody just graduating from college.
Mhm.
But for more seasoned alums, it's okay to have 2 pages.
Where can I find guidelines for what is considered professional dress these days? The CDF has a Pinterest page where we have, examples of professional attire. But one thing that I like to do, because this does differ based on industry, go on the company's Facebook pages and look at their events photos. That always tells me of like the kind of dress to expect, if I were working for that company. And then in the interviews to dress maybe a 1 notch higher than that, a little bit more professional. It's a little bit of a trick there. Let's see. How common is it for a prospective employer to request to speak to people not on your list of professional references? Is this a red flag, a good sign, or a bad sign? To request to speak to people not on your list of references. That is, honestly, that's not very typical. Usually they'll ask 2 to 3 references. The only time when that they will come back to you for additional names is if they haven't been able to reach a reference that you have indicated, in which case they might come back to you and ask, or you might be applying for grad school and all of your references, would be from, your seasonal job, et cetera. So they might have come back to you and asked for you to provide like a professor, et cetera. But other than that, I don't think it's typical. What would you say, Sue?
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So we're almost out of time.
I think we are. So, okay. And I think we've addressed most of the questions as well. There was just another resume related one. Should we include our address? And quick answer, no need to include your address. All right, I just want to thank everybody for being here and leave it to Kara to close us off because we're like only 10 seconds.
Oh gosh, I feel like we could probably keep talking for another hour, right? So many good questions, a lot of questions on resumes. So definitely including the link to that resume workshop will be helpful. Dee and Sue, you guys are rock stars. I mean, I said it at the beginning and I'll say it again. I'm just so grateful for you guys. For everyone who's joining us and still hanging on, I do have a quick exit slide. Dee already mentioned a lot of our upcoming events that are coming up specifically related to career engagement. The Alumni Association hosts, 280-ish, let's just call it 300, in-person and virtual events annually. So there is no shortage of opportunity for you to tap into your USD network. You can see a lot of different things coming up here just within the next week. Yikes, look at all of that. So everywhere from New York to, of course, San Diego and everywhere in between. A lot of these are virtual, such as that Welcome to the Bay Area on April 5th, and our Atlanta networking night, so on and so forth. But we are hosting in-person events. So especially out in our regions, including in Reno, Tahoe tonight, Seattle next week, DC on the same night as Seattle. Our Black Alumni Appreciation Dinner will be in person as well. And our Filipino cultural night, excuse me. So we are excited to be back in person. Take advantage of your network. Your network is your net worth, guys. So this is so critical to know. We appreciate you. We appreciate our presenters. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great day, and we will see you very soon.